All right, so we're diving deep today into manifesting abundance, and we're going to be looking at some excerpts from R.J. Spina. He had some really interesting views, I think, some pretty unconventional views about money and success.
Yeah, Spina, he really jumps right in and says that imagination is the key to unlocking the multiverse.
Oh.
And it's interesting because he doesn't see the multiverse as some kind of like far out sci-fi concept. For him, it's a very real, energetic space that we can tap into with our imagination.
So you're saying that if you can imagine it, you can manifest it.
Yeah, and that really ties into this idea that everything is energy, right? Including money.
Okay.
So Spina's view is that money, just like all energy, can't be created or destroyed. It's already there,
Yeah.
flowing through the universe. So instead of thinking about making money, what if we focused on aligning ourselves with that flow?
Okay, I'm intrigued. How do we do that?
Well, Spina suggests that the universe is kind of like a giant hall of mirrors. It's reflecting back the frequency that we're putting out, kind of like tuning into a radio station. If you're broadcasting a frequency of lack and scarcity, guess what the universe is going to pick up on and send back to you?
More of the same.
Exactly.
So if I'm constantly worried about money, that's actually attracting more financial stress.
That's Spina's argument.
Oh.
And then on the flip side, if you can shift your internal frequency to one of abundance, believing you have everything you need, the universe is going to reflect that back to you.
Okay.
It's a pretty radical idea, but it makes you think.
It does. It kind of reminds me of the law of attraction, but with an energetic twist. But Spina doesn't stop at visualizing abundance. He's pretty passionate about dismantling what he calls the poverty mentality.
Oh, absolutely. So the poverty mentality, Spina calls it the illusion of lack. And he believes it's rooted in our perception of separation from this unified whole. We get so caught up in comparing ourselves to others and feeling like we don't have enough,
Mhm.
and that we actually create this self-fulfilling prophecy of scarcity.
And he uses this really interesting analogy to illustrate this. He talks about cookie dough.
Right, so imagine a batch of cookie dough as one unified whole until we start scooping it out and making those individual cookies. Some cookies might be bigger, some might have more chocolate chips, but ultimately they all came from the same dough. The separation and comparison only come after we've divided it up.
So the lack that we perceive isn't actually real. It's just a result of our fragmented perspective. We've forgotten that we're all part of that same abundant source, just like those cookies are part of the dough.
Exactly. Spina boldly states that there is no lack, none. It's bold, but when you think about it, it makes sense. There's always enough energy, resources, opportunities in the universe. It's our perception that creates the illusion of scarcity.
So how do we break free from this illusion? Spina talks about breathing, right?
Yes, he points out that we never worry about running out of breath. We just breathe effortlessly and abundantly without even thinking about it. What if we could approach other areas of life, especially money, with that same sense of trust and ease?
That's a powerful image. It's not about forcing or struggling. It's about aligning with this natural flow of abundance, just like we do with our breath.
And Skyna emphasizes this has to go beyond intellectual comprehension. You have to feel it in your bones. You have to trust that abundance is always available to you, just like your next breath is.
So it's about shifting our perspective, our energy, and really embodying that feeling of abundance.
Right, and that leads us to Spina's next point, the importance of dismantling those limiting beliefs that are blocking us from experiencing true abundance.
Yeah, he says most people don't achieve their dreams because of self-doubt, right? Like we're standing in our own way.
Exactly. He explains that doubt splits our energy, making it harder for us to focus our intentions and manifest what we desire. He emphasizes the power of single-pointed focus. You know, Spina himself never doubted his ability to walk again after suffering a severe injury, and it was that unwavering focus that fueled his healing.
That makes me think of that saying, energy flows where attention goes. If we're constantly doubting ourselves and focusing on what we lack, we're essentially sabotaging ourselves.
Right, and that ties into his critique of this overemphasis on doing as the path to manifestation. This constant striving and pushing, what he calls toxic masculinity, often stems from this fear-based energy that actually keeps us from aligning with our desires.
So it's not about hustling 24/7.
Right, Spina advocates for a shift in focus, from constant action to aligning with our desires in a state of rest. He believes that manifestation happens more effortlessly when we're in alignment with our true selves, not when we're forcing things to happen.
It's about being, not doing. It's a pretty profound concept, especially in our culture.
Good.
So how do we practically apply this? Spina talks about the Merlin Formula, right?
He does. It's essentially a blueprint for manifestation. He says you need three key elements: desire, intention, and self, all aligned in a relaxed state.
Okay, break that down for me.
Okay, so desire is the starting point, your genuine wish for something. Intention is your focused will, the energy you direct toward that desire. And self represents your core being the authentic essence beneath all those layers of conditioning.
It sounds like it's about getting all three of those in sync.
Yeah. Spina believes that when you align your desire, your intention, and yourself from a place of relaxation and trust, you create a powerful emanation that the universe must reflect. He actually used this formula during his own recovery, aligning his desire to walk again with his unwavering intention and belief in himself.
Wow, that's powerful. But how do we know if we're on the right track? How can we trust that our intentions are actually manifesting? I'm a very visual person. Does Spina have an analogy for that?
He does. He compares setting an intention to plugging a destination into a GPS. You put in where you want to go, and you trust that the GPS is going to guide you there, even if there are detours along the way.
I like that it makes it much easier to understand.
And just like with the GPS, doubt is like pulling over halfway to your destination and questioning if the GPS is taking you the right way. It throws you off course and delays your arrival.
So it's about setting the intention and then trusting the process, even if we don't see results right away.
Exactly. And that trust is cultivated through presence and stillness, which is a recurring theme in Spina's teachings. He explains that our ego minds, with all their doubts and fears, can never truly be at rest. They're constantly chattering, creating resistance, blocking the flow of abundance.
So it's like we're playing two songs at once, the song of our true desires and the song of our ego's doubts and fears. No wonder the universe is getting a mixed message.
He actually uses that exact analogy, and then he says something really powerful. Doubt is death.
Wow.
Now, it's not being literal, of course,
Mm.
but he's emphasizing how detrimental doubt can be to the manifestation process. It cuts off the flow of energy toward our desired outcome.
So how do we combat this? How do we quiet that inner critic and tune into the frequency of abundance?
Spina believes it's all about cultivating presence, becoming more aware of our thoughts, and choosing to focus on the present moment. We can quiet the ego mind's chatter and allow our true intentions to shine through.
It's like silencing the noise and tuning into the signal of our true selves. And speaking of signals, Spina also introduces this concept of a miracle machine within each of us.
He does. He says that we are all miracle machines, capable of manifesting incredible things. But most of us are operating at a fraction of our capacity because our attention is misdirected, outward instead of inward.
So we're essentially the miracle, but we're not plugged in.
That's a great way to put it. Spina believes that when we direct our attention inward, we can activate the miracle machine's full potential and manifest our desires with much greater ease. But to do that, we need self-control and self-discipline, which are concepts that Spina approaches in a really interesting way.
Oh, I'm curious to hear this take on that because for me, discipline has always felt restrictive. Like I'm forcing myself to do things I don't want to do.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way. But for Spina, self-control and self-discipline are about learning to master our energy and align it with our true desires. Remember, he defines discipline as to learn.
So it's about learning to understand our own energy and how to direct it consciously. That sounds a lot more empowering than my previous definition of discipline.
It is, and Spina has this great piece of advice. Never put your attention on anything that you don't want to grow. So simple, but it really makes you think about where you're focusing your energy.
It's like we're constantly feeding the things we focus on. Whether they're positive or negative, if we want to manifest abundance, we need to be mindful about where we're planting those seeds.
Exactly, and that leads us to Spina's emphasis on gratitude as a powerful amplifier of abundance. By focusing on what we already have and feeling grateful for it, we shift our frequency from one of lack to one of abundance, attracting more of what we appreciate into our lives.
It's like that saying, what you focus on expands, but it's not just about thinking positive thoughts, it's about embodying that gratitude.
Absolutely. Spina believes that gratitude is an energetic practice. That creates this powerful feedback loop, attracting more blessings and positive experiences into our lives.
This has been so insightful. Spina's approach to manifesting abundance is so holistic. He's encouraging us to shift our perspective, reprogram our limiting beliefs, and cultivate a deep connection with ourselves, all while aligning our desires, intentions, and actions.
It's a powerful message, but I'm curious to hear what Spina has to say about the role of the monetary system. In our experience of abundance, it seems like a pretty crucial piece of the puzzle.
Me too. I'm intrigued by his view that the monetary system can be both a tool for enslavement and a catalyst for awakening. That seems paradoxical.
It is, and that's where we'll pick up in part two. Spina has some really provocative insights into how the current system can perpetuate the illusion of lack, but also how it can spark a profound shift in consciousness. Spina, he doesn't hold back when he talks about the monetary system. He calls it a tool of enslavement, designed to keep us trapped in that feeling of never having enough.
That's pretty strong language. I can see how the system can kind of pressure us to always want more. But how does it actually enslave us?
Well, he believes it keeps us focused on chasing external validation, material possessions, rather than pursuing our inner fulfillment and our purpose. We're constantly striving for that next paycheck, that bigger house, thinking those things will bring us security and happiness. But true abundance, according to Spina, comes from within.
So we're chasing a carrot on a stick, playing a game that's rigged against us.
Exactly. Spina suggests that the system is designed to make us feel like we're never enough, always needing more. And this keeps us stuck on that hamster wheel of working, spending, and accumulating, never quite reaching a state of true satisfaction.
But then he also says it can be a catalyst for awakening. How does that make sense?
Well, he believes that when we reach a point where the system fails to deliver on its promises, when we realize that another raise or a new car isn't filling that void within, that's when real transformation can happen.
So it's like a wake-up call. It forces us to question the rules of the game and seek something more meaningful.
Right. Spina sees the dissatisfaction that many people feel with the current system as a sign of spiritual growth, like a yearning for something more fulfilling than just material wealth. It's a desire to break free from the illusion and create a different reality.
Does that mean he thinks we should just abolish money altogether?
He doesn't necessarily advocate for abolishing the system. He acknowledges that it's a reflection of our collective consciousness, and it'll stick around as long as we continue to buy into its power. Instead, he focuses on helping individuals transcend the system's limitations by cultivating inner abundance and mastering those principles of manifestation we talked about earlier.
So it's not about fighting the system, it's about changing our relationship with money.
Exactly. He encourages us to see money as a neutral form of energy, a tool that can be used for good or for ill. Our intentions and beliefs are ultimately what determine its impact. Spina believes that by shifting our perspective, we can create a reality of abundance, regardless of what's happening in the external world.
That's incredibly empowering. But honestly, it's hard to just flip a switch and change your whole perspective on money, especially when we've been conditioned to see it as this source of security and validation. Where do we even begin?
He suggests starting by examining your own beliefs about money. Where did those beliefs come from? Do they actually serve you, or are they holding you back? It's a chance to question all those messages you've received about money, from your family, from society, even from the media.
So it's about deprogramming those limiting beliefs and replacing them with more empowering ones. I can see how gratitude would play a big role in that.
Absolutely. Spina says that by focusing on what you already have and feeling genuinely grateful for it, you shift your energy from a state of lack to one of abundance. And that can transform your whole experience with money. But he also talks a lot about self-control and self-discipline, right?
He does. I'm curious to hear how he frames those concepts, because for a lot of people, they can feel very restrictive, especially when it comes to finances.
Right. And remember, he sees those qualities not as limitations, but as empowering tools for aligning your actions with your intentions.
So it's not about deprivation or penny pinching. It's about making conscious choices that align with your values and that support your overall well-being.
Exactly. And remember, he defines discipline as to learn. So when it comes to money, it's about learning to manage your finances wisely, making informed decisions, and using your resources in a way that supports your goals and aspirations.
It all circles back to that Merlin formula, aligning desire, intention, and self.
You got it. Spina believes that when you're clear about your desires, you set those powerful intentions and act from a place of authenticity. You'll naturally attract the resources you need to fulfill your purpose.
And that includes financial resources.
Absolutely. He emphasizes that money is just energy. Like any form of energy, it flows where attention goes. So by focusing on your goals, cultivating that abundance mindset, and taking inspired action, you can attract the financial support you need to make your dreams a reality.
I love how Spina blends these spiritual principles with practical strategies. It's not just about abstract concepts. He gives you real tools that you can use to create a life of abundance.
That's what makes his work so compelling. He bridges that gap between the mystical and the mundane, reminding us that we have the power to shape our reality both internally and externally.
But if we're all miracle machines, as he claims, why do so many people struggle to manifest their desires, especially when it comes to money?
That's a great question. And it gets right to the heart of one of Spina's biggest points. Doubt. Remember how we called it death?
I do. It sounds dramatic, but it makes sense.
He sees it as this insidious force that can sabotage our efforts before we even begin. When you doubt your ability to achieve something, you essentially cut off the flow of energy toward that outcome.
So we're sending mixed signals to the universe. We say we want something, but deep down, we don't really believe we can have it.
That's the crux of it. Spina reminds us that the universe responds to our dominant vibration. If that vibration is full of doubt and fear, that's what will manifest.
So we have to cultivate that unwavering belief in ourselves and our ability to create what we desire. But how do we do that when those doubts keep creeping in?
Remember his GPS analogy.
Mm.
He reminds us that when we plug a destination into our GPS, we don't usually doubt that we'll arrive. We trust the guidance and we follow the directions, even if there are unexpected detours.
It's so true. We trust the GPS implicitly, but when it comes to our own dreams, we let doubt take the wheel.
Spina encourages us to apply that same level of trust and confidence to the manifestation process. The universe, he says, is always conspiring to help us reach our goals.
It's about surrendering to the flow of life and trusting that we're being guided towards our highest good.
Beautifully put, that sense of surrender and faith is a cornerstone of Spina's teachings. He wants us to remember that we're not alone on this journey. There's a supportive, intelligent universe working in our favor.
It feels like a weight lifted off your shoulders when you realize you don't have to control every detail. You can align with your desires, take inspired action, and then trust that the universe will orchestrate the rest.
That's the power of faith and surrender. And to truly tap into that power, Spina emphasizes the importance of cultivating presence. By quieting our minds and connecting with our inner being, we become more receptive to the guidance and support of the universe.
It's about getting out of our own way, quieting that mental chatter, and allowing that abundance which is always there to flow into our lives.
That's the ultimate goal. And Spina offers practical tools for cultivating presence, like meditation, mindfulness, and connecting with nature. These practices help shift our vibration from lack and scarcity to abundance and flow.
And speaking of flow, he also talks about the flow state, that magical feeling of being completely absorbed in the present moment, where creativity and inspiration just flow effortlessly.
He does. And he believes the flow state is one of the keys to unlocking your creative potential and manifesting your desires with ease.
It sounds amazing, but it can feel so elusive at times. How do we actually access that state?
Spina suggests letting go of attachment to the outcome and becoming fully present in the moment, truly engaged in whatever you're doing.
So it's about surrendering the need to control and allowing ourselves to be guided by intuition and inspiration.
That's a key element. And he also points out that we often access the flow state when we're engaged in something we love, something that brings us joy, something that lights us up.
So it's about finding and pursuing your passion with your whole heart.
Exactly. When you do that, the energy of flow naturally takes over, propelling you towards your goals. It creates that feeling of effortless manifestation.
It's a beautiful cycle. Passion fuels flow, flow fuels creation, creation fuels abundance.
That's a perfect way to summarize it. And it's a cycle that we can all tap into. By aligning with our true selves, pursuing our passions, and cultivating a mindset of gratitude and trust.
This conversation has been so enlightening. Spina's perspective on abundance is truly refreshing. It's inspiring to think that we have the power to create a reality that reflects our deepest desires and values.
It is. And it all starts with a shift in perspective, a willingness to question those limiting beliefs, and embrace a new way of seeing ourselves and the world.
Speaking of shifting perspectives, Spina also delves into some profound ideas about the nature of reality itself and our role as creators within it.
He does. That's where we'll continue our exploration in part 3. He challenges us to question everything we think we know about reality and to step into our power as conscious creators.
So we're really going deep now. Spina's asking us to question everything we think we know about reality.
Yeah, it's a big challenge. He suggests that what we perceive as this solid external world is actually a projection of our own consciousness.
Whoa.
It's a mind-bending concept, for sure.
So he's not saying that like the external world doesn't exist, but it's more like our perception of it is being filtered through our own internal state.
Exactly. It's like we're all wearing these personalized VR headsets. And the reality we experience is shaped by the thoughts, beliefs, and emotions we're feeding into the system.
He uses a movie projector analogy to explain this, right?
He does. He compares our consciousness to the projector and the external world to the screen. The images that we see on that screen are just projections coming from the projector. So if our projector is playing a film of lack and scarcity, well, that's the reality we're going to experience.
So if I'm walking around thinking I don't have enough money or I'll never be successful, I'm essentially creating that reality for myself.
That's what Spina argues. And then conversely, if you can shift that internal projector of yours to play a film of abundance, believing that you have everything you need and more. You'll start to see evidence of that abundance all around you.
Okay.
It's really about becoming conscious creators, taking responsibility for the reality that we are projecting.
So instead of feeling like I'm a victim of circumstance, I can actually choose to create a reality that aligns with my desires.
Exactly.
That's really empowering.
It is, and it really echoes those ancient spiritual teachings that emphasize the power of the mind to shape our experience. Spina often quotes that Bible verse, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he."
So our thoughts literally create our reality.
That's the idea he's putting forward. He believes our thoughts have a vibratory frequency that interacts with the universe's energy field, and that frequency attracts experiences that match our dominant vibration.
So we're always sending out these signals, and the universe is constantly responding.
Exactly, and we get to choose what signals we send out. We can focus on fear, lack, and limitation, or we could choose to focus on love, abundance, and possibility.
It all comes down to choice. We're not at the mercy of fate. We have the power to create the life we desire.
That's the message at the heart of Spina's teachings. He sees us as divine beings with unlimited potential, capable of manifesting anything we set our minds to.
That's beautiful, but it also sounds like it takes a lot of awareness and intentionality to make that shift.
It does. We have to become more conscious of our thoughts and beliefs, identify the ones that are holding us back, and then consciously choose to replace them with more empowering ones.
So we're like the gardeners of our own minds, choosing which seeds to plant and nurture. And Spina provides some tools for that, right?
He does. He's a big advocate for affirmations, visualizations, and gratitude practices to reprogram our subconscious minds and align our energy with our desired outcomes.
So it's not just about like thinking positive thoughts. It's about actually working with our subconscious mind to create new neural pathways that support our goals.
Exactly. He believes that by consistently practicing these techniques, we can actually change the structure of our brains and create a reality that reflects our highest aspirations.
Wow, so we're rewiring our internal operating system to run on abundance instead of scarcity.
I like that.
But it makes me wonder if it's all about rewiring our brains. Does that mean it's going to take years of intense effort to see any real change?
Well, Spina acknowledges that it takes time and effort to reprogram those deeply ingrained patterns. He encourages us to approach this process with patience and persistence.
So it's not a quick fix. It's more like a journey.
It is.
A journey of self-discovery and transformation. And where does that journey ultimately lead? What does enlightenment look like in Spina's view?
That's a great question. For Spina, enlightenment isn't about reaching some distant goal or achieving a state of perfection. It's about recognizing our true nature as divine beings, fully connected to the source of all creation.
So it's about realizing that we're already whole and complete just as we are.
That's the essence of it. And Spina believes that this realization is the key to unlocking our full potential and experiencing true abundance in all areas of life.
It's not about chasing external validation or accumulating more things. It's about connecting with that inner source of abundance and letting it flow outward.
Beautifully said. Spina encourages us to shift our focus from external validation to internal fulfillment, recognizing that true happiness and abundance come from within.
It's about embracing that miracle machine within each of us and tapping into that infinite source of power and creativity. This deep dive has been incredibly thought-provoking. Spina's perspective on abundance challenges us to question everything we think we know and to step into our power as conscious creators.
He is offering a path to true freedom and fulfillment, one that starts with recognizing that divine spark within and aligning our lives with our truest selves.
What if, as Spina suggests, we already have everything we need to create the reality we desire? It's a powerful question that invites us to explore our own beliefs, to tap into our inner power, and to create a life that truly reflects our highest potential. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into manifesting abundance. We hope you found it as inspiring as we did.